Good evening, Kelvin, my friend. How are we tonight?
I'm great, Stephen. How you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Very, very good. It's a bit gloomy, sort of having this domestic violence intro to a show, but it's got to be done, man.
It does, mate. And look, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm really blessed to be here and looking forward to our chat.
Absolutely, me too, man. I'm really grateful for you taking the time out as well to come in and talk to us about not just domestic violence. We will go through some more broader subjects as well. But thank you so much for everything you're doing as well, Kelvin.
No worries, Steve. Thank you. And I must say, we're live from Savage Studios in Bunbury. I've got my producer and good friend Ryan Pierce right here with me, just in case any techie shit goes down. That way he can come in and save the day. So if you hear a bit of guitar in the background, you know what's going on.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Kelvin, let's start out. I suppose we might as well just dive into it. The whole domestic violence thing. I'm assuming there's probably gonna be some stories behind here that might have a bit of taboo and controversy. But can you tell us about how you sort of took the initial initiative to do something about this?
Yeah, well, there's many reasons why I first started doing these shows, raising money and awareness for victims of domestic violence. It all happened around a time in 2015 when I was doing a radio show called Global Metal Machine on Harvey Community Radio. Basically, I found myself in a little bit of trouble, and I was actually incarcerated for 3 weeks. And then when it went to court, I was released onto an anger management course through Relationships Australia. Wow. And when I first got to this course, I basically the first couple of sessions, I was quite angry, blaming everybody but myself, wasn't taking any responsibility whatsoever. And then about session 3, I started really learning a lot from this course and some of the other guys that were on the course. My facilitators were absolutely fantastic. And through ending up on this anger management course, I was able to turn my life around in a way where I wanted to give something back to the community. And at this time, like I said, I realised there was a number of people on this anger management course that were actually really good people, but they'd made mistakes and they'd done things that they weren't proud of, domestic violence and other forms of violence. But basically, through me learning so much from this course, I think it was a 24-session course. I left this course and actually used the steps that I learnt as a client through Relationships Australia to take into my future life and to better myself. And so basically, in saying that, I've done a number of diplomas now, and I'm a qualified counsellor, and eventually I want to open up my counselling service, Wings of Change. But until that time comes, I've found a way to really link not only my love for wanting to help others, but also my love of music. And that was through creating the Stop the Violence Festival. I basically started talking about creating this festival when I was still a client on this course. And I didn't know what the facilitators sort of thought about it. But a couple of years later, when I actually got everything licensed and had built up the courage to kick it off, we started raising a lot of money and awareness, more importantly, for victims of domestic violence. And our community, the music community in the Southwest, have really started making a difference through doing these sorts of shows. So there you go. That's where it actually started. I've lived a bit of a rocky past, and I'm pretty open about where I come from and where I sit now. I think honesty is the key. But honestly, in a nutshell, through seeing the work that Relationships Australia had done for people with anger management issues like myself or others that had domestic violence issues, it made me really want to give back to them and the community. And through what I was doing on Global Metal Machine with Harvey Community Radio, I'd met so many talented bands and talented musicians when I first spoke to my friends and musicians about this, I had nothing but 100% support from everybody that was involved. And since then, all the bands have been donating their time. We've had over 100 bands play Stop the Violence in Bunbury now since 2016. So wow. There you go. That's a little bit of a background on where the initial idea come from, Stephen.
Yeah, fantastic. But I think I really like about your festival is that, again, it's a metal, it's a rock festival, and I suppose there could be probably a lot of people out there that would sort of sometimes combine metal and rock with being a bit more angry and possibly not violent, but at least a bit of anger when you listen to a lot of like heavy metal and stuff. So
look, Stephen, that's another reason why I started doing these heavy metal shows to start with, because I also wanted to take some of the stigma off heavy metal musicians, because I tell you what, like a lot of us, myself including, you'd cross the street if you've seen us walking along the street, but we're the first there to give you the shirts off our back. And most metal musicians that you meet, they're full of empathy, and they're quite caring and loving people. So I wanted to combine the two and also hopefully take some of that stigma off heavy metal musicians and the genre in general.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned it, because I mean, this is predominantly a rock show. So, like, the vast majority of the people I've had on the show are in the rock or metal genre, and again, they are the nicest people. And I think also when you go to concerts, like the actual crowd are usually so supportive of each other as well when you go out. So it's awesome. I love what you're doing, and I want to hear a lot more about it. So you're saying you're up to, is it festival number 7 now? Is that it?
Yes. Well, basically at the end of 2016, that was December 2016, we done Stop the Violence 1, which started as a heavy metal festival in the back bar at the Burlington Hotel. And basically, when it first started, it was a rolling mini festival. Like I said, there's so many pieces that make up the reasons why I put this festival together. Also, at the time, I noticed that the scene in the Southwest had almost diminished. There hadn't been any decent metal or punk shows on for about 18 months. So basically, when I first started, it was a rolling mini festival. There was going to be one of these every 12 weeks. So as soon as one finished, I was organising the next one. Basically, the template was what Hornography have done in Perth. It was similar to what I was trying to do down here to get a bit of a club happening, to get some excited generated behind the scene. And at least once one festival finishes, you've only got to wait 12 weeks for the next one. And it was all sort of happening. But I think after Stop the Violence 3, I was doing these every 12 weeks. I collapsed under the weight of the ambitious project that I'd put together. I suffered from really bad depression and anxiety. I have done from a young age. But so basically, after I had the breakdown, I had to take a step back for a bit and put a bit of self-management into my mental health. I had to put myself first and foremost. Of course. So I think after Stop the Violence 5, we done a double header, which was we done Perth and Bunbury. We done Perth one weekend at the Boston, Bunbury the following weekend. We had the two bands headline both shows, but we had Perth bands opening up that show in Perth and Southwest bands opening up the show down here. But then where I'm going with this, after we done Stop the Violence 5, something quite horrific happened to me, which changed my vision and everything that I do from here on in. Basically, at the start of 2018, my good friend Dino the Dinosaur Edwards passed away. He was the co-host and founding member of Global Metal Machine, my radio show that we co-founded in 2014. He was feeling a little bit ill and said to his girlfriend he was going to have a lie down, and he didn't wake up. And wow. There's been no cause of death, and he was younger than me. It really hit me hard, and I was really grieving. badly for Dino. But then at the end of 2018, a very close friend of mine, I've got two brothers. The closest person I've ever had to being my sister, Cara Hales. She was just so close to me and my family. My little brother's best friend, she was at Stop the Violence 5, and she's telling me how proud she was of me and the festival. And what happened at the end of 2018, she'd been in a domestic violence situation, and she was living with her mother here in Bunbury. Her boyfriend at the time, or ex-boyfriend, had been imprisoned for the domestic violence charges against Cara, and she was really scared when he was coming up for parole because she was living with her mother. So she put herself into a safe house in Perth, and she was only there 3 days, and there was a knock on her door, and when she answered the door, she was murdered in cold blood by a stranger. And it really hit me and my family horrifically hard, where I couldn't listen to music. I knew the festivals were all over, the radio was over. I couldn't listen to metal. I couldn't listen to any music. And then after about 10 weeks, I started listening, going right back to my roots before metal, listening to the Beatles and a lot of the mellower stuff, the Beach Boys, you know, and sort of get me through. And then it come to me, I realised if I was going to do another festival, it was going to be in Cara's honour. And it wasn't only going to be a metal festival anymore, it was going to be all genres. And the first 10 bands that I booked for Stop the Violence 6 Sunflowers for Cara were 10 of Cara's favourite Southwest and West Australian bands. So we ended up doing Sunflowers for Cara last year. Cara's family were involved in the organisation. My family were involved, including, and some of Cara's good friends. It was really a difficult time because it was helping us all through our grieving process. But Sunflowers for Cara last year was the biggest and best tribute we could have ever given to Cara. There was a lot of tears shed. There was satchels of sunflowers given out to everyone, and all year, me and my family and Cara's family and friends have been receiving photos from people that were at this festival that are now growing sunflowers in Cara's name, and so basically that's where we're at now. So, and then we started organising Stop the Violence 7, and just as we started, COVID hit and sort of put the brakes on everything. So there you go, mate. It's a bit of a story, isn't it?
Yeah, far out. Wow, that's again. Yeah, I'm sitting here. I've got goosebumps, man. It's. I mean, that's a really deep story, man. But again, like what you're doing is just so beautiful and so fantastic.
I just wanted to sort of get that across, Stephen. And I said thanks for the opportunity, because there has been dramas behind the scenes. Like, it's not easy to organise these sorts of festivals, and I don't always handle them the best that maybe I should, but I am just so heavily emotionally attached to everything that I do, especially after creating Sunflowers for Cara, and it not only getting me through the grieving process, but my little brother, Cara's family, and so many of us. And we were all embraced on that night, and it was just so much more than just a festival. So I really wanted to get the importance of this festival and what it means to me across. So.
Absolutely. But don't you have a little bit of assistance? Like, hopefully you aren't dealing with all of this by yourself. Because I mean, when I look down on my sheet here and look at everything that like you've sent through, stuff that you've done, it's like when do you sleep? Like, it sounds like you've got so many balls up in the air. It's like
I'm a little bit nuts. I honestly am, man. Like right from a young age. I've always been very ambitious, and like I spoke about earlier on, I do suffer really bad depression and anxiety, and basically that's what I mean. Like, more than medication or meditation or counselling or anything, what I do with these festivals, the radio, the promotion with the music, it means the world for me, and it means the world to me, and actually really music's saved my life in a lot of ways. And
wow.
Answering your question, a lot of this I do on my own, and I have collapsed. I've had several nervous breakdowns and collapsed under the weight of my ambitious concepts and visions. But I'm very determined and driven. And basically, look, where I'm going with this is a lot of the people that I surround myself with are people that I love very much and are very dear to me, and also suffer mental health issues, from borderline personality disorder to anxiety to depression. And Stop the Violence 6 last year, we had Sunflowers for Cara. There was a team of probably 12 to 14 of us that night.
Yeah, about that.
And basically, unfortunately, with COVID and that sort of stuff, a large percentage of my team are suffering from mental health decline at the moment. Like, COVID hasn't been good for anybody, and mental health has really declined on so many levels.
Yep.
And because my shows and everything I do are from the heart, and it's all built on empathy, the well-being of my team comes first and foremost. And at the end of the day, if the show doesn't go ahead because my team is struggling, that's the way it is. But look, when my team are firing on all cylinders with all guns blazing, we can make anything a possibility. Like they said in Wayne's World, if you build it, they will come. That's our motto, and we like to stick to that, Stephen.
Absolutely, man. So you mentioned earlier in regards to your depression and anxiety. How do you sort of keep that in check, being so busy? Because again, I mean, I'm doing this show by myself as well, but and trying to sort of look after my family at the same time and stuff. But I'm just doing the show. Like, you're doing the festival. You got a radio show. You got the Global Metal Machine. You got the so much stuff. We got to talk about some other stuff that I know you're going to introduce us to as well. So it's like how many hours is there in the day in Kelvin's life, and how does that sort of impact your anxiety and depression?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm always teetering on the edge, Steve. And look, my mental health is not good. And even at this point in life, when I'm managing it the best that I possibly can, I still have my good days and my bad days. And there has been times over the last 18 months where, when you're having a bad day with depression, basically a lot of the hard work can almost be thrown out the window, because I can put so much love and empathy and care into everything that I do. And I still have my days where I don't want to get out of bed, Stephen. And when I have those days, I'm lucky now that I've got good friends like Ryan here and a lot of people in the music industry that know what I'm all about. They know what makes me and what breaks me. And they're very supportive. And if they know I'm having a bad day, they know when to back off. They know when to touch base. And, yes, in a nutshell, look, I still have days where I can't get out of bed. The depression's debilitating. And it sort of enhances it when I know I've got all this incredible stuff going on that means the world to me and has my heart. And I still can't drag my sorry ass out of bed. And that's depression. Like, I go to a party or to a concert. I've been known to walk into a room and light it up, but I'm really not a confident person. I struggle with self-esteem. And look, when my depression is overrunning my anxiety, that's when stuff gets really damaging for me and everything that I've created. When my anxiety is overpowering my depression, I've learned how to channel that into a positive energy. And that is where I get a lot of the fuel to do a lot of this stuff, because I'm actually I'm a driller's offsider. I've got a day job and I work my ass off. It's not an easy job. So there is a lot going on, but basically I hope I've sort of answered it the best that I probably could. Yeah. Depression, not nice.
Yeah. And in regards to, like you mentioned as well, that that the music actually saved your life. Is that something you're okay to elaborate on? Because I'd love to hear about it if you're happy to talk about it.
100%. Well, look, basically, I fell in love with music very young when I was at school. It was about probably 11 or 12 when I first really started falling in love with music. Started my first band and started making mixtapes for all my friends, and I'd be the dude that brought mixtapes in for everybody. And it got to the point where we all had our little Walkmans, and our teachers, they just let us listen to our music. They'd just tell us to turn it down or leave the class if we were interrupting the other students. And look, basically, in a nutshell, I knew from that point that music was going to be my life. But unfortunately, as I was leaving school, I fell into a 2-decade, basically, cesspit of drugs and mental health decline. And basically, unfortunately, like right from when I was a teenager and got bit by that sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle, it was just unfortunate that I fell heavily into the sex and the drugs side of rock and roll. So the rock and roll was pushed to the side for 2 decades. And look, I lost a lot of people in that time. I'd done a lot of prison. My buddy was in and out of some mental institutions and rehabs. I was going through a bad methamphetamine addiction and a heroin addiction. So many of my close friends passed away, like many of my good friends passed away. And it was later on in life when I realised I'd lost a lot of my early adult friends and late teenage friends through these lifestyle choices that we'd made. And I come to the conclusion that all of these people were great people, you know. I'd done so much damage to myself. I was obsessed with self-destruction, and there was something looking over me because I was still here. And basically, now I can sit down with the loved ones of my friends and even their kids in some circumstances and talk about the great memories that I have of their brothers, their sons, their fathers, you know. And what I come to the conclusion, and this is answering your question, is even when I didn't love myself, I didn't love anything, the one thing that I always held on to and loved was music. And in the back of my mind, no matter how dark my days were, music pulled me out of a lot of really, really dark places. And it was basically halfway through a 4-year prison sentence from 2008 to 2012, when early 2008, I'd been in prison for about 3 months. I met another prisoner by the name of Dean the Dinosaur Edwards, and he is my co-host that went on to create Global the Metal Machine with me. And basically, we sat down, man, and we realised we were both good people. We were making a lot of bad decisions, and we were both empaths. You know, we wanted to turn our lives around and give back to society. We wanted to be true to ourselves, and we decided then and there that we were going to use this time in prison to turn our lives around. We were going to get out, train ourselves up in radio, and we were going to infiltrate the airwaves on Harvey Community Radio 96.5 FM. And basically, look, I was doing this 4-year sentence. Dino was only doing little drunk slaggings, you know. He was never a criminal. He was always a really good dude. I think he was only doing like 10 weeks and then 3 months, another 10 weeks. I think he stole the same laptop from the same shop in Manjimup twice so he could come back and we can continue putting the pieces together for Global Metal Machine. And look, a lot of the prisoners used to tease us and they'd laugh at us and say this, that and the other. You can say this when you're in prison, but no one follows up what they're talking about. And basically, me and Dino done it. And through doing that, and I'm very proud to admit this, that we inspired a lot of prisoners that used to listen to our show. They got hold of our story, and they've used what we've done with Global Metal Machine to also turn their lives around. So there's so much more that goes to it. But in a really big nutshell, that's why music saved my life.
Wow. That's an amazing story, man. Thanks so much for sharing that as well.
Oh, good, man. I hope I'm not being too honest.
I really appreciate the honesty. I really love people that aren't, as you mentioned earlier as well, like honesty is key, like and if you're okay to talk about it and sharing that, I'm grateful for the story. And the fact that you've actually been able to use that story to inspire others that have been in the same situation is just so wonderful.
And it's quite therapeutic being able to talk about it, because a lot of the people, like I said, I'm usually interviewing musicians and doing a lot in the music scene, and they do see this really sort of charismatic, high energy person. So it's really great and therapeutic to get the opportunity to touch on some of these subjects. Sort of a free counselling session. So thanks, mate. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
Okay, where do you want to go next with it?
Well, the thing is, we've obviously we've covered some of the festivals here, but I'm still a bit curious to sort of see the amount, sort of like pick your brains on the amount of work that goes into actually organizing these. Because I mean, you mentioned the last ones you had was obviously a very emotional one, and also the biggest you've done so far. Then we had, as you mentioned as well, we had COVID. I think that sort of caught the whole world by surprise, especially the extent and the ongoing extent of it as well. So you're now trying to put together the number 7 at the moment.
Yes.
So maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on sort of the behind the stage and the actual work that goes into it, and also maybe tell us a bit more about the details.
Yeah, okay. As anybody out there that's organised festivals, no matter how small or how big, it's never an easy thing to pull off. There's so many different aspects to a festival. There's of course all the bands and having talented musicians involved. The music is the entertainment, first and foremost. But then when we're doing something this big, 3 stages, 30 bands, you've got to do all the sound teching and the lighting. Like last year alone, we had like a 6-man sound tech crew. And basically it took weeks and weeks of meetings. We'd have our Global Metal Machine meetings, which was me and my immediate crew. The next night we'd have sound tech meetings. There was a couple of my crew and all the sound techs. Then we had to have crews with all the security that were working that night, so we're all on the same page. And basically, my mum and auntie work the door. My dad works the kitchen, so it sort of makes it a little bit easier to get the family involved. I had a full art crew as well, working around the clock. It's really hard to put into words the amount of work behind Sunflowers for Cara, especially because we were all grieving. We dove into that head first, and I look back on it now, and it's just I'm still in disbelief that we actually pulled it off and it was so successful. Myself, basically, I'm contacting bands. When you've got 30 bands on the bill, you've got to contact bands constantly to let them know what's going on, keep everybody on the same page. We've got Ryan here that's doing up stage maps and plans for the rooms. It's just it's a massive operation, and basically it's really hard to hours and hours and hours of work go into these sorts of festivals from so many different people covering different fields. With Stop the Violence 7, because basically after Stop the Violence 6, I took 12 weeks off to focus on mental health management, because it was just such a I dove into it so badly and so head first that I needed some time off to really grieve for Cara and Dino, and just do my own thing and focus on me. So I've basically done that and started putting Stop the Violence 7 together. And this is sort of, because we pulled it off last year, this is going to be a lot easier because we've got our sound crews sorted. We've got the venue sorted. We've got security. It'll be all the same crew that we worked with last year. So we all last year we didn't really know what to expect, like 30 bands indoor on 3 stages over one day is definitely unheard of here in WA, and I don't even know if festivals to that capacity are operating anywhere around Australia. They're just Yeah, so basically, but look, there is going to be a lot of work go into it this year, but I took a step back and I remembered why I do this. I do this because I love it. I love people coming to the shows. I love connection. I love to see happiness on people's faces, and I love to hear good music. Because I was grieving last year, I collapsed under the pressure a bit. But I do this because I love it. But I've teamed up now with a neurosurgeon, believe it or not. Nobody ever would have thought that old ex-con Kelvin Edward Whitwell, old metalhead, would be teaming up with a neurosurgeon. But Dr. Martin, him and his wife are behind the anti-domestic violence videos that we've made, and I believe we opened up the show with one of those.
Yep.
And basically, we're going to be working on for promotion and also awareness for domestic violence to connect to the festival. We're going to be releasing probably 5 or 6 of those short videos, and then through Relationships Australia and in meetings that me and Dr. Martin and the head honchos at Relationships Australia will be partaking in, we're going to come up with alternative videos to those 5 videos that we've released, just so we can try and get more awareness out about domestic violence. And this time around, we're gonna really try and stamp the message more than we ever have before, because with COVID hitting us all unexpectedly, as you probably know, domestic violence has gone through the roof, and statistics are just terrible at the moment. So the world needs a festival like this right now, Stephen. So there you go. A lot of work around the clock, pretty much 24/7, a lot of numerous people to put these shows together. Not easy.
I don't know. I'm so in awe of everything that you're doing, and the amount of work you're putting into it, and the dedication, man. It really, and it's still just, I think back on what you said before, when you were sitting in prison with your mate, and you said, look, we're going to go out, we're going to do this, we're going to set ourselves straight. But you've done so much more than that. Like it's such a selfless thing to do. Like you really, it's like you're throwing so much of yourself out there to try and help others, which is so inspiring, man.
Thanks, man. That's what I'm all about. Like, a lot of the reason I do is I'm an empath. I carry a lot of empathy, and that is also a massive downfall of mine too, because I actually, I do feel for people and feel for like everything that I do, I put my full heart into. So if it doesn't always work out, it does break my heart at times. But I suppose to be an empath, that's why I want to eventually be a counsellor. I want to help people. So, and until then, I can do that through music.
Yeah, no, I love it. What does the band say when they come and play? They must be stoked to be a part of it.
Oh, they all absolutely love it. Like last year alone, we've raised 6,000 since 2016. Last year alone, we raised 3,500, and it was just such a proud moment donating that check on behalf of not just us, but the whole West Australian music scene. Everybody's very proud to be part of it. We're getting more and more musicians, female musicians especially, that are opening up about their own struggles with domestic violence. Wow. Musicians and bands are starting to write songs inspired by this show, and all these little bits and pieces that everybody's doing are going to get the awareness out as much as we need it. So, but look, I'd like to, if we could, just sort of change tide a little bit here to talk about Neighbour of the Beast quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Sweet. Well, on a positive note, or on another positive note, I've been very lucky to start a new radio show with my good friend and producer, Mr. Ryan Pearce here. We do Neighbour of the Beast on Scudley Radio. It's Western Australia's first internet-based radio show. We play specifically West Australian punk, alternative, hard rock and heavy metal music. We're working on episode 15 now. That goes to air on Monday night at 8 p.m. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be interviewing bands. We're starting to sponsor local shows. I'm the DJ, and I do a lot of the talking. As you can probably imagine, I like to have a chat. Old Ryan
fantastic.
here, he is the sound guru.
Get Ryan to say hi, by the way. Say hi,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Say good day, Ryan.
Hey.
This is Savage Studios. Yeah, this is Ryan's studio, and he is a sound guru. He's actually just thrown in his day job to pursue music full time with Savage Studios here. So
fantastic.
He produces everything, makes everything look shiny, chucks in some special effects. But together, we've created this show, and it's only 14 episodes in. We've got to thank everybody for the support. It's been very well received, and big shout out to Peter Renzullo, also of Scudley Radio. He's the creator of Scudley Radio. Thanks for giving us the opportunity, Pete. But basically, we're also going to be working on an offshoot to Neighbour of the Beast called Raw Sounds from the Neighbourhood of the Beast, and that's going to be an hour-long video show. We're working on the pilot over the next few weeks. Cool. We're going to be filming live concerts. We're going to be having 4 or 5 live snippets from different shows around WA. We're going to be premiering 2 new video clips each week, and we're also going to be interviewing bands. So I've always been very inspired by Molly Meldrum and what he done with Countdown. So I'm looking forward to doing our sort of own version of that, except this time the musicians will definitely be playing their instruments.
Yeah. Now, again, another really generous act of you guys. Again, it is all about sort of sharing and not, but trying to find the right word here. But you're doing something good for others is what I'm trying to say. And it's amazing. How did you get the idea to do that? Through the Scudley Radio?
I'm really glad you asked. I said to Ryan when we got here, I said, buddy, I hope I'm only on air for about 20 minutes, and I haven't shut the fuck up since I got here. So I hope I'm not boring everybody out there in radio land. But look, it's funny because everything's so entwined. And look, in about 12 months' time, once I've found the right publisher, I will be releasing my memoir called Sex, Drugs and Radio, and everything is going to be in there in more detail. So do read the book upon its release. Wow. But look, basically, with my work that I've done on Harvey Community Radio, which was, of course, something that me and the Dinosaur created in prison, I met a fellow by the name of Glenn Herbert. I interviewed him and his band on Harvey Community Radio. They're called Beautiful Cartel. And me and Glenn become really good friends, and he was telling me that he'd just been cast as the main actor in this new feature film that was getting made here in WA. And I'm like, rightio, Hollywood, settle down, And calm down. And look, a few months went by, and I'd forgotten all about it. And basically, by the time the producers had gotten hold of me, we'd finished up with Harvey Community Radio. We'd done 133 episodes, and I wasn't actually doing radio at the time. And the producer got hold of me and said, remember that we sort of spoke to you about maybe playing a radio DJ in this new West Australian feature film that was happening. Are you still keen? And I was like, settle down, you're joking. He was like, nah, be here at this time. So I'm drilling all day, and I work hard. I'm covered in shit and sweat, and we drilled like an 80-metre hole or something. Knocked off work. I'm still covered in shit. My housemate's driving me up to Perth, so I'm trying to get my head together. I'm going to some weirdo movie shoot. I didn't know what to expect. And here's me thinking I was just going to do a radio sort of scene in the movie. And I've gotten to this park. It's about 7:30 at night, and there was there's all these there's a few actors in that I'd met, and I met the producer, and all of a sudden, my first scene, I've witnessed a suicide, which is absolutely bloody horrific. Here's me just knocking off work. I've got to go up there thinking I'm doing a radio scene. How hard is it going to be? I've never done drama in my life. I was always the one doing stage props, or that's cool to get out of being on stage,
Yeah,
so I got up there. I've had to cry on cue and bloody I had to do all these bits and pieces in this full-on amazing scene, but it was a horrific scene, a suicide scene. And I'd lost friends to suicide and that sort of stuff, so it actually hit me really hard. And I ended up getting written throughout this movie as Andrew Devlick, the radio DJ, but it was my brother in the movie was like the main villain in the movie, and I was basically in these scenes in the movie, feature film Anticipation. Check it out if you haven't already. But long story short, right at the end of the movie, there's like a bloody 20-second scene, and that's the radio scene, you know. That's the one I signed up for, but I had to do all this other really cool shit.
And you didn't know anything about it? Or what? Like,
when Glenn told me about it, I didn't know what to expect, you know. Like, I don't know much about the film industry and that sort of stuff. I sort of thought they were taking the piss, you know. Like, my teacher always said I've got a good head for radio, but if you've seen this head on the big screen, he would have been blown away. But look, get this straight before I finish the story with the icing on the cake. While we're filming this movie, it was simultaneous. We filmed a lot of these scenes during 2018, the year that we lost the dinosaur, Dean Edwards and Cara Hales. Unbelievably, because the producer and other actors in the movie, including the main actor, Glenn, knew both of these people. This movie, when it went to the big screen, was dedicated in loving memory to Dean Edwards and Cara Hales.
Wow.
And basically there was the radio show at the end of that movie. I couldn't use Harvey Community Radio 96.5 FM or the Metal Ed character or Global Metal Machine for copyright reasons and that sort of stuff. So I was wearing a shirt. It was a Neighbour of the Beast shirt. And big shout out to you, Julian, Striptease. He done all the shirts and clothing for the movie. Through the shirt, we thought that's a great name for the radio show. So the radio show in the movie was called Neighbour of the Beast. And then basically when COVID hit, and old Pete, because now Pete's that movie won like 25 awards all around the world. He is in demand now. He's making 3 or 4 movies on the go at the moment. But when COVID hit, he got hold of me with this big spiel. He said, "You keen to do radio again?" And that's where Neighbour of the Beast come from. So
that's so cool, man.
Long story short.
Yeah. Wow, man. So that radio show actually came out from you just playing a role in that movie.
It come from the movie, you know. Wow. And like I said, Julian, big shout out to Julian from Striptease Clothing, because his shirt design was basically where it was spawned. And look, in all honesty, you've got to take the blessings when they come. If COVID didn't sort of stop everything in its tracks, Pete would have never had the time to kick off a radio station.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. So there you go. So,
there's so many silver linings to COVID. I mean, obviously, I'm sure everybody would have been better off without, no doubt. But so many interesting and new things have come from it as well. You know, people that has to sort of think outside the box and try and do something creative. And because all of a sudden everybody has all this time, you know, sitting at home for 6, 7, 8 weeks during lockdown. And, you know, most people would like to do something instead of like, you can't complete Netflix anyway, man, you know, so you've got to do something else. So that's an amazing story. You sort of came up with the radio show and all that. That's actually how this started too. That's really? That's how I started talking to people. I've really only been doing this for about, what is it today? I've been doing this for 4 months tomorrow.
Far out. You do such a bloody good job, mate. I've been checking out your interviews and you do a fantastic job and you're promoting all corners of the scene, which I love. So on behalf of the scene, thanks for the work that you're doing.
Oh, look! Thanks again for your words, man. It's, again, I'm equally nervous now, almost as I was when I started. Because again, I wouldn't say I'm introvert, but I'm certainly not used to talking to people, especially people I haven't met. You know, so for me, every time I connect to someone, it's like, oh, you know, I'm a little bit scared and, you know, nervous and stuff. But then, you know, as the conversation develops, then usually, you know, you calm down a little bit and it'll be all right. And actually a fun thing, and I think that's probably when it sort of changed for me a little bit, was the fact that when I started looking at this the same way as if a band goes out and they're gigging. If you go out and you play a live gig, not all gigs are great. Sometimes something goes wrong. Sometimes, like you might break a string and you aren't feeling sort of too confident on the night. But other times, it's great. But whatever happens, you just keep going. You do another gig. Mate. Yep.
That's exactly right. Perseverance, and when you've got a passion and a vision, there's going to be hard times. But when you're passionate about something and you stick to it, more often than not, your hard work pays off.
But your festival is a perfect example of that as well. So again, coming up, and we actually never finished the upcoming festival. I'd love to hear a bit more about that and sort of the bands and stuff. I think I saw on your page a couple of weeks ago there was a little bit of turmoil happening there. But is the festival going ahead now?
The festival is going ahead. Look, I've as I spoke earlier on, I don't the social media side of things I really sort of do struggle with. And sometimes when there is conflict on social media, I don't handle it well because I'm a face-to-face sort of person. Like even this sort of stuff, I'm loving this sort of stuff. But and basically, I'm not going to make any further comment on the turmoil. But all that I will say that a couple of bands had gotten hold of me about a band that was on the bill for maybe sharing something that was a little bit racially motivated or something along them lines. As a promoter and creator of this festival, I spent 2 weeks looking into the whole situation, talking to all parties involved, and I made the decision that there was no concrete evidence to remove anybody from the bill. And a couple of bands removed themselves from the bill because the band in question was going to play. But look, at the end of the day, to any bands that are playing a festival or a show and that sort of stuff, like I mentioned earlier, it's not easy to organise these sorts of shows, and most promoters try their best to deal with the situations as they rise. And look, I made a decision, and I stand behind my decision 100%. Unfortunately, there is a couple of bands that have removed themselves from the bill. The festival is still going ahead, and it's still going to be 30 bands over 3 stages on the 5th of December. And it kicks off at 1:30 in the afternoon. So basically, yeah, it was, like I said, everyone's had a bit of a difficult year this year. But the underlying message here is we're all passionate about making a difference. There's some things going on in this world that really none of us are comfortable with. So whether it's Black Lives Matters or domestic violence situations or drug and addiction situations, we've all got to be tolerant. We've all got to be understanding, and we've all got to try and work together to work through these issues together. So in saying that, the festival is still going ahead. Unfortunately, I had to take down the event page when it first happened just to try and work out this bit of stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Once that was worked out, I've rebooted the event page. Full promotion is underway at the moment, and I can guarantee that it's going to be a massive success, and I really look forward to it. But we've got 30 bands, including all genres. We've got Moana, who are a really cool sort of a cultish sort of witchy sort of rock band from Perth. We've got Fields, who's doing big things at the moment. Yep. She's playing shows all over the place, and her song Cracked is also the anthem for Stop the Violence 7 this year. It was written by her and her old band Brewfield. Our band, In a Sanatorium, on the bill. We've got basically something there for everybody. There's going to be 12 bands out the back, 12 bands out the front, and there's going to be about 6 bands in the middle room, mainly acoustic bands in the middle. So, yeah, so 5th of December at the Burlington Hotel. You guys are going to be hearing a lot about it over the next few months because we've got some good radio interviews coming up. We've got some TV stations that are looking like getting behind this year, and we're just hoping to grow on on the momentum of Sunflowers for Cara last year. So yeah, the future looks really good for this festival.
Yeah, fantastic. And it sounds like you would have grown quite quickly as well, because if you mentioned you started was back in 2015 or something, you had, when you had the first. I think you mentioned you only had a couple of bands at the local pub, and now you've got 30.
Yeah, well, we had 8 bands, and the reason for that is because it started as a rolling mini festival, and it was just going to be one of these shows every 12 weeks, like I mentioned earlier. So there's no way you could pull off something so big, because I was continuously organising around the clock. And basically, it only sort of evolved to 30 bands. After Cara's death, and I went through that real difficult time of not listening to music, when I started listening to music again, going right back to my roots, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and some reggae and some of these mellower tunes, it made me realise that I'm not just a metal man. I love all genres of music, and Ryan's going to kick me in the shins here, but I'm loving Tones and I right now. I can't get enough of Tones and I. A dream of mine would be have Tones and I playing in Bunbury on my bill alongside bands like Suffering, Rotten Depravity. That's what I mean. Like, it was pretty cool last year. Getting to see the metal dudes wander into another room where there was no metal and sort of spin out for a minute and get their bearings, what's going on here. But then I seen them with a bit of a head nod and actually enjoying it, and vice versa. I know there was some of the folk lovers and country lovers, and that sort of wandered into the metal room and got bitten by the metal bug. So,
yeah,
so
fantastic.
That's basically where it comes from. Yeah.
Have you reached out to her? Have you actually asked her?
Many times. She's seen my message twice. I still haven't received a reply. So Tones and I, if you're watching this, get hold of me. I mean it. But look, we're talking to some. The plan is basically we've stopped the Violent 7 this year. We were going to bring over our first interstate bands. We had some cool interstate bands locked in. We're going to bring over 4 interstate bands, and I've set up an offshoot to Global Metal Machine now, my not-for-profit organisation called Global Music Machine, which enables us to get a little bit of funding and that sort of stuff to look at bringing bigger bands over to these sorts of shows. Then when COVID shut everything down, we've sort of brought it back to just WA made this year, similar to what Slayfest are doing.
Yep.
But that's the plan for next year, to slowly start to bring in interstate bands, and look, eventually I'd love to take this festival I'd like it to be West Australia, Victoria, South Australia. I've got massive visions for the future of this festival, and I've actually been in talks with some bigger bands. I don't know if you guys remember Green Jelly from right back in the day, like spawned a couple of Tool members, but been in talks with them and some other blast from the past bands that are really cutting me a good deal to come over and play these shows in the future. So look, I'm not gonna give up on my dream. I'm gonna continue to do what I do. It's just up to people getting behind me. I can only put the shows, I can put all the work in and make them as special as I can. But at the end of the day, if these shows haven't got crowds, they're going to fall flat on their faces. So that's basically where I'm at the moment. So.
That is so inspiring, man. And I'm sure, because like you're the kind of person, like your charisma just tells it all. Like you can tell that you are so passionate, and because you believe it, I've got no doubt that this will happen, man.
Cheers, dude. Cheers.
Yeah.
I wish I could say the same for Ryan. He's fallen asleep over him. His stories are boring the shit out of him. He's heard them all before.
Yeah, he's listening to some Tones and I or something.
Definitely. Yeah. But look, I want to get hold of you anyway over the next few days, because I'm not really going to touch too much on our band in a sanatorium during this session, because I'd like to organise something down the track similar to what you've done with Electric State, where we could do like a full band interview.
Oh, I'd love it, yeah.
Because we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up down the track, and And basically, down the track, if we could lock something in, that'd be good. Then we can actually get Ryan on camera too. He likes to be behind the scenes most of the time. So
good. No, absolutely. We should definitely lock something in. We could even do something a bit closer to the festival to sort of make some good promo about it. And if there's some other bands there that want to come on, if you got some of the local bands down there as well.
Well, that'd be spot on, mate.
Yeah, like if there's anything, look, I'd love to support it any way I can, man. So if you got any any videos, any promos, I'm more than happy to share it. Or any bands that want to come on, again, if they're happy to give up their time, I'll give up mine for sure.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You've how do these things work? How much time we got left here?
There's not really any back end to it. I had my longest chat ever the other night. I was talking to Jay from Oracle Sound. He's produced quite a few of the bands. Commander Panda, I saw there on the bill as well. He's working with them at the moment. And
great lads.
I'm
going to give their Commander Panda onesie back from last year.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully you watched it.
Not yet.
But yeah, I've spoke to him I think we spoke for nearly 4 hours, which is by far the longest chat I've had. But generally they go for like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Far how long we've been talking now?
We've been talking for an hour, spot on. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got about another 15 minutes or so?
Oh, at least. And I'm sure I can see there's quite a few comments as well. So if there's anybody listening, if you have any questions, fire away now, because we'll be grabbing some Q's and A's later. So yeah, look, I mean, as long as we have something great to talk about, there's no open-ended. My kids are asleep, so I've got all night.
No worries. Well, because I live at Milup, so I travelled into Bunbury to do the interview here. So I've got to travel back out to Milup after this. So I reckon we'll go for another 15 minutes. But look, I've got a couple of bullet points here I just want to touch on.
Please,
that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Big shout out to everybody that tuned into. Thanks for all the support. But look, basically, our band In a Sanatorium, we've got a few shows coming up. The first one I want to talk about is part of a string of all ages shows that I am going to be helping organise along with Urshon and some other members of Perth Sound Lounge. Basically, what we're trying to do here is similar to what the Rolling Mini Festival was down here for the over 18 crowd, and also what Hornography are doing. We're trying to create that sort of space for the younger crowd, and we're going to be holding a number of all ages gigs in Perth, probably every 6 weeks or so. The next one's at Vision Studios, which is a bloody great setup. It's a really good stage to play on. Over 18s, it's only $10, free to under 18s. It was really cool at the last one we done. We played there, and it was great to see some young crew in the crowd from start to finish, because hey Ryan, it was really pleasant to see, and that's what we're hoping to do with these festivals. So look, we're doing all ages shows. Big shout out to you, Urshon. Perth Sound Lounge, phenomenal organisation. You'll be hearing a lot more about them in the future.
He's watching.
Cool. There's also going to be a venue opening up soon linked to Perth Sound Lounge, but the next one is on September the 26th, and it features Jam Art, Cytopia, As Light Decays, Our Demise, Dying Degree, Flesh Worship, In a Sanatorium, and headliners Bloodlust. So all ages shows. Keep your eyes out for them, peeps. And it was pretty cool. The first one we done, because it was the first show after COVID. And we didn't really know what to expect playing an all-ages show. We changed some of our lyrics and changed some of the F-bombs to something a bit more kid-friendly, And when we walked in there, the first thing we noticed was there was a 6-year-old girl's birthday party going on. One of the band members, big shout-out to you, Googs, from ALD, brought his family along, and they were having the birthday party there. So it was pretty awesome. We had all sorts, and it was great. So get along to the all-ages gigs. It's not a licensed venue. No alcohol. This is a family-friendly environment, and it's honestly fun for the whole family. So Vision Studios, and starts at 3 p.m. So come down too, Steve, if you're available. Bring the family, mate.
Whereabouts was it? So
Vision Studios in Perth.
Right. Yeah, you never know. You never know if I haven't got anything on. For sure, man. I'd love to. I'd love to.
And look, I just want to, something I've really got to mention is basically I mentioned about starting my first band when I was 13, the Decapitated Chooks, and I was making my mixtapes and giving them out to everybody. Music is a massive part of my influence, but I think a lot of people are going to know the answer to this next question is 50% of my influence are some of the musical movies I seen as a kid. I'll never forget seeing movies like Bill and Ted and the Wild Stallions, you know. It was like me and Dave Procco, the Decapitated Chooks guitarist. We become Bill and Ted. We were always in the teacher's office doing our air guitar thing, and all the kids used to actually call us Bill and Ted. And basically, so the Bill and Ted movies are also Trick or Treat, where Gene Simmons played the radio DJ in that movie. He played a radio DJ called Nuke. Everybody was really mesmerised by the main character, Sammy Kerr, the rock star. But me, I was more mesmerised by the old hairy radio dude, Nuke, played by Gene Simmons. And Ozzy Osbourne also played a priest in that movie. Check it out, Trick or Treat. But, yeah, the two Bill and Ted movies, Trick or Treat, Airheads, when Airheads come out, the Lone Rangers, the fact about a really shitty band, breaking into a radio station and holding everybody in the station captive.
Yeah, that's a wicked
really
movie.
Key songs played to air resonated with me. Then, of course, Empire Records, just the young crew that were having issues, but it was the music store that got them through those issues, and it was all about the connection that those young people made through music. It was also the first movie I seen my first taste of war on it, and being a young person and seeing any footage of war is just like, what the fuck is that? I've got to see more. And then look, later on in life, of course, the two Wayne's World movies when they come out, and look, those movies I've just listed there are a massive influence to me. That's why even when we do Neighbour of the Beast, even though it's pre-recorded at the moment, we try and do it one take. It's a little bit comical, and it's very influenced by those movies that I just listed there. So check them out if you haven't already yet, guys. Albums that influence me, you did mention that you wanted me to mention a couple of songs that mean the world to me. It's hard for me to pinpoint specific songs because I'm such a music lover, and I've also been a massive admirer of the album as a whole. I'd love to be the kid buying an album and you're listening to it from start to finish while you're smelling it and reading it and touching it and licking it. Maybe not licking it, but
you don't get that anymore.
You don't get that anymore, you know. Like then later on in life, albums started coming out where it was all about singles. It's all about selling singles. So there'd be two or three big songs that would be heavily promoted on an album, and the rest would be filler. But I'm all about old school albums. So I just want to list a couple here. Look, Slayer, South of Heaven. The first time I ever heard that album just blew my mind. It was actually, I was very young at the time, and I've seen it. I was mesmerised by the picture of this skull on the cassette tape back in the day, and they were in these little safety capsules back in the day, you know, like I had no money on me. I was about 12 or something really young. So I was sitting there for about half an hour trying to pry this cassette out of its little safety latch, you know. And then my auntie come and tap me on the shoulder and she goes, "It's your birthday this week. What do you want for your birthday?" And we've gone straight up to the shopkeeper. I knew what I wanted. I wanted that. And by the time the shopkeeper come and got it after we purchased it, put the key in, unlocked it, it was already halfway out the packet. But I got that cassette tape home and listened to it from start to finish, time and time again for days and days and days. So South of Heaven by Slayer, a massively influential album on me. Life of Agony, the River Runs Red album. It's one of those albums I discovered at a young age when I was really going through a lot of issues. My depression and mental health decline and those sorts of things were starting to sink in, and being at school and being so young and not really knowing what was going on, I really confided in the River Runs Red Album, which is a concept album about a young fella that really has a traumatic life and unfortunately takes his own life at the end of the album. But listening to this album from start to finish has gotten me through a lot of difficult times, and I still listen to that album in its entirety. So check out Life of Agony if you haven't already. Also Therapy, the Trouble Gum. I like a bit of punk and alternative music as well. I don't know do you remember a band called Therapy?
I actually got introduced to them on that album, and I saw them on the tour back in Denmark when they were touring that album, when they just started. So yeah, I do know that album very well. It's a wicked album.
I'm jealous because Therapy and the album Trouble Gum, whole album, once again, it's about teenage angst and issues, and Therapy got a real knack about taking a really depressing topic and making you feel really good about it. So their music's really uplifting, and it's one of those albums that really lifts my spirits up. So Therapy, and also I'll never forget when I bought the original CD. It was a really cool album cover concept because on the cover it had just a dude in a bodysuit with his head.
Yeah, it's got a head in a bucket or something, isn't it?
What's that?
Yeah, he's got a head.
His head in the garbage can, but you open up the cover, and the CD is the lid of the garbage can.
That's right.
When you take the lid off, which is the CD, the garbage can is full of like all this sexual innuendo and drug paraphernalia and all bits and pieces, you know. So it was a really cool concept, I thought. Just quickly, also Metallica and Justice for All. Massive album for a lot of people that are my age and into metal. I loved all of the early Metallica stuff, but that album and one in particular, seeing that video clip, the whole concept, it just made me realise how big and bombastic a metal could be. It was just epic. So yeah, that album there. Infected with the Control album. Infected are my favourite West Australian band. They've just reformed to play Slayfest. I was shattered because it's pretty funny actually. Infected finally reformed to play Slayfest this year. And my old band, the Decapitated Chooks from school, finally reformed after 30 years to play Stop the Violence 7. And then COVID hit and just cancelled everything. So I was devastated. But look, Slayfest is still going ahead. Infected is still on the bill. The Control album changed my life. And it was that moment when I realised, holy shit, I'd been listening to that album for a long time before I realised I'm from Perth. And it made me realise the talent that we had right here in our own backyard. So There you go. And basically Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, and Mayhem, of course, D. Mysterianus, D. Santhanus, the whole concept of the Mayhem backstory always intrigued me. So look, just quickly, there's some albums that really have inspired me along with their movies. But more than anything, seeing Poison live in 1989 with my mum. My mum took me. I was so fucking young. Mum was that excited, she fainted in the line. So she missed half the concert. Then she finally got back for half the song, and I jumped up on the seat. And buddy, I went to give it the devil horns, and I've given her a black eye, so she's back to the first aid room. But look, my mum took me and my first girlfriend, Tia Offer, big shout out to you, to the Poison gig in 1989. And after Mum come back from the sick room after collapsing, and I got excited and accidentally donked her in the head, she's back to the sick room. It's a funny story, but me and Tia stood up on the seat. We're looking at the crowd, and this is quite an embarrassing story. Look, we had our first kiss. It was like a puppy love thing. And look, as we done this, we've looked up at the crowd, and Bobby Dell, the bass player from Poison, was looking straight at us and give us a big double thumbs up. We know he wasn't looking at us, but it just resonated with us, that whole concept, the whole experience. Poison, I know they're really overlooked these days, especially since grunge come along, but just to see them sliding down the glitter slide, spinning the guitars around the neck, doing all this phenomenal, had such an impact on me. I still remember the opening band, as terrible as they were, Rosemary's Baby. Look, I've always done now Perth bands that I'm really excited about right now, Stephen. There's so many bloody West Australian bands that I'm absolutely pumped about. Um, so many new bands popping up left, right, and centre, but some that I've just quickly got to mention are Jam Art. I'm wearing their shirt. Check them out. Urshon, the main man who does Perth Sound Lounge with me, is a great friend of mine, big fan of it in a sanatorium. They mix folk music and death metal together like you've never heard. It's very inspirational. A wonderful band. As Light Decays, very busy doing all sorts of cool stuff. Ryan's mixing their new music. Check them out. Dying Degree, also some old classics like Chimera, All This Filth, Infected, and if you want a bit of black metal, you can't go past the Dying Kings. And now just to finish off on my notes, and then I'm done, got a funny little story for you. After saying all that, I come from a music that has not got a musical bone in the body. I've got a big family, especially on my Whitwell side, but not a musical skerrick in any of the family members. And too recently with Corinne Breslin, of course, big shout out to you, cuz. A lot of people have always asked me where I've got my love for music from, because it definitely wasn't Dad, you know. He hated music. It wasn't Mum. She wasn't really into it. Recently, because I've always asked myself this same question. It was a few years ago. We were going to a family reunion with my dad's, with my mum's dad's side of the family, and my mum, her dad left when my mum was 3, so she didn't really grow up with her dad in her life. But my mum's dad's side of the family are the Rhodeses, and they come from the Rhodes family in the States. And yes, indeed, the late, great Randy frickin' Rhodes is a distant relative of mine, you know. And
really,
when I found that out, I'd tell everybody and anybody that give me the time of day, because that's where I obviously get my musical chops from, being distantly related to Randy Rhodes. But I'm also related to Dusty Rhodes too, and I'm not a wrestler, so there you go.
That's a crazy story, man. I can actually just quickly just tell to people watching, for whatever reason, I think we had like a bit of a shortage, like a power shortage here. So for some crazy reason, the video feed has disappeared, but there's still audio. So, okay, so I've got no idea how that happened, but anyway, that's again some of the things that happens when we are doing stuff live.
He's watching his on his phone. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, from what I can see from what's being broadcasted, it looks like there is. I mean, there is definitely a video feed, but the actual image of us from that I'm transmitting here through Messenger is. Has disappeared for some reason.
That's all good, mate. No,
but the audio again is the most important bit anyway. So
I'm really not disappointed if people aren't looking at my head for an hour and a half. Believe me.
That's it. Well, I suppose you said anyway that it was like you had to travel back here. So it might be a good opportunity for us to maybe sort of try and round it off here anyway. Good. But man, look, yeah, a lot of awesome albums you mentioned there as well. A lot of stuff that I grew up on as well. It's like Symphony of Destruction is one of my favorite albums as well. Masterpiece. One last question I've got here, which I suppose is a rhetoric question, but I'm still sort of just curious to see how the Bunbury music scene as a whole is. Because I mean, obviously, you're like a smaller version of Perth, if you like, but again, a fairly big city heading down south. So how's the local music down there in regards to the live scene and the bands playing there?
Look, man, we're struggling down here. We're really struggling to stay afloat. A lot of people have often said to me, being a promoter in the southwest of WA has got to be one of the hardest places to promote music in the world. We've got the talent here. We've only got a couple of venues. Unfortunately, there seems to be too much competition between those two venues. We need to sort of definitely come together a little bit more united. And that's another part of the Stop the Violence festivals. Like I said, when I rebooted the first one, there hadn't been a decent metal show down here for about 18 months or so. The scene had fractured a fair bit. It's not what it used to be. But I believe there's more like-minded people like myself and musicians popping up here on a daily basis down here. I believe if we stick together and keep knuckling down and working hard, I reckon we're going to bring the music back to Bunbury. But right now, I'm just being honest, it's a struggle to have a festival like Sunflowers for Cara last year that really packed the place out. Was sort of unheard of around these parts. But like I said, it is what it is. If our band in a sanatorium were in Perth, even it would give us so many more opportunities in different aspects of the music scene.
Yeah.
But no, it's not good at the moment. The talent's great, the musicians are great. COVID definitely hasn't helped. But yeah, we've just got to keep plugging away, and I'm pretty sure that we can once again relight the fire that once burnt here in the southwest of WA for the live music scene.
Good. Well, I'm sure a lot of Perth bands would love the opportunity to maybe swap, so they could come down and play their music down in Bunbury and vice versa. Like you can come up to Perth and get on the bill up here.
Exactly right, mate. Well, that's what it's all about, and we're lucky with a lot of these newer bands that are popping up. We're developing really good friendships with them and also good working relationships. So, as a whole, the West Australian music scene right now is probably the best that it's ever been.
Yeah,
the talent, the shows, the support, the unity, because Perth was even fractured for a lot of years. But look, as a whole, West Australia is pumping when it comes to the music scene in general. But we just need a little bit more of it to spill over here into the southwest. Don't forget about us. Cold down these parts.
Fantastic, man. Look, let us move on to my last segment, which is something I ask everybody on the show. That is, if you have any sort of tips and tricks to anyone sort of listening. Because obviously, this is predominantly about bands, about music. So if you have anything, I mean, you've actually given quite a few empowering examples already. But if there's anything sort of like a good advice that you could give to someone listening, whether they're in music or anything, what would that be?
Okay, basically, stay true to yourself. Stay true to your vision. My boss, from my day job, from my drilling job, he tells me something nearly every day, so it's sort of ingrained in me now. He says there's only two types of people in this world. There's those that help you, and there's those that hinder you. Surround yourselves with those people that want to help you, want to support you, share your vision. And if there is a little hiccup or there is a speed hump or it doesn't always pan out the way that you envision it, stay true to your original vision. Don't deviate, and persevere, because at the end of the day, when you get there, it's a bloody great feeling. And when you're a musician, you can become really... When you're creating something, the anxieties that come with that is sometimes you can lean a lot towards, you want people to appreciate what you create. You want people to enjoy what you create, because as a musician, that is so ingrained in the writer of that creation. And when people don't support these sorts of things, the way that you envisioned them to be supported, even if it does get you down, don't give up on your dreams. Keep persevering and you will get there in the end. But surround yourselves with people that love you first and foremost, or at least like you, and want to support and help you with everything that you're doing in your life. And that's not just with music, that's life in general.
I love it. That's it's great advice.
And it might be a good time to, because we're coming to the end now, I want to sort of finish the interview before we're going to finish with Night Terrors, aren't we?
Correct, yeah. I've loaded that one up.
There's a little saying, when I was on that original anger management course through Relationships Australia, And it was after the second session, I think, between the second and third session, when I put myself back into detox. Was next step, detox center. I wrote something down on day one that I've taken with me not only through that detox, but into 3.5 years of sobriety. I've been clean for 3.5 years now. I couldn't be prouder. And
Fantastic. Well done.
I used to intro and outro every episode of Global Metal Machine with it. And I've even managed to get it into the intro for our debut song with In a Sanatorium. But look, these words mean the world to me. So here it goes. It is better to light one candle a day than to curse the darkness, although sometimes you've got to look straight head on into the darkness to see the stars. But when you finally see the stars, they will shine brightly. Don't let your nightmares from your past destroy your dreams for the future.
Wow.
And
love
basically
it.
that little
Big
saying
words.
there, of all the questions you've basically asked me, that's my prayer. I live by that. I say that to myself when I wake up every morning. I say that to myself when I go to sleep, and so it means the world to me. So yeah, there's a lot of depth in those there words.
Oh man, is that lyrics that you've written?
It's a poem. It wasn't even supposed to be a poem. It was just me visualizing the way I was feeling, and it wasn't until I put those words to paper that.
Yeah,
I almost become a little bit enlightened, and honestly,
it's powerful, man.
It's my prayer. So, and I live by those words, and I've carried those words over into my everyday life, and that has spawned everything from Global Metal Machine to Neighbour of the Beast to Inner Sanatorium to being in a fucking movie, for God's sake.
Yeah,
I couldn't be prouder, and. Look, I live on a ranch out at Mylup at the moment. I've got a little house overlooking a lake, just me and my dog. There's a block of land next door. On the other side of that block of land, my mum and dad live in that house. And up the back of that block of land, my mum's mum lives in that house there. My daughter's coming back over from New Zealand towards the end of the year. And 4 generations of us kicking on out there in Mylup. So, and they couldn't be more proud of me. So, yeah.
Kelvin, I must admit, this has been a much more powerful conversation than I could ever imagine, man. It's been so nice to spend almost an hour and a half with you now. And, and I can't wait to meet you in person. Whether that'll be your Envision studio or are you coming to Slayfest?
I'm going to be at Slayfest for sure. We've got a few shows coming up. Going to be up in Perth tomorrow night for the Straight Out of Lockdown show that Neighbour of the Beast has sponsored. That's got Tempest Rising, Wrath of Fenrir, As Light Decays and Midnight Furnace. So it's going to be a great night and going to be good to catch up with all the Perth crew. But look, man, if ever you're down in Bunbury, give us a buzz and I'd love to catch up and shoot the breeze, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah,
likewise, man. Likewise. It's it's really it was an honor what an honor, and I'm really appreciative for the stories that you shared, man. Really, really, really powerful stuff.
Thanks, man. I don't know how much I'll cringe when I watch it back, but I hope it was all good, man. And
it was. It really was, man. I really enjoyed it. And I'd love to have you back and with the boys in the band have a chat about the music as well.
100%. Well, that's a great way for us to finish. It's a great little segue. We're going to finish on Night Terrors. I've got to say, Ryan Pierce here. I met him many moons ago now when his old band Sheol of Abaddon and Medusa's guys come into Harvey Community Radio, and I interviewed them. Me and Ryan have become such close friends, and many of our ventures we have done together. I just have to make it clear that Ryan is definitely the brains of this operation. Okay. And when it comes to the music that Inner Sanatorium produce, he writes this magical music, including Night Terrors that you're about to hear now. I'm blessed. I'm the founding member of the band, and I'm blessed that I haven't been kicked out of my own band yet, because I'm definitely the weakest link. But down the track, I am going to be playing a character. on stage, similar to what Iron Maiden do with the Eddie character, and we're hoping Justin Sanity becomes the son of Eddie. But Ryan's definitely the talent. We had a lot of fun doing this video clip. It was the first video clip of young Justin Burnett come all the way down to Bunbury and filmed it all for us. Big shout out to everybody that got involved. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and we were really proud about how it turned out. So this is Night Terrors by In a Sanatorium. I hope you guys all enjoy it, and I'm the dude wearing the mask and the dress.
Hey, and on those words, let's watch the video, man.
Good on you. No worries, guys. Peace out.
Thanks a lot, Kelvin. I will speak to you very soon. Thanks, brother.
All right.
Sweet as.
See ya.
Everybody.
Thanks so much for tuning in or listening along to the show. If you like the show, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to my social channels. It doesn't cost you anything, but it greatly helps me to build my networks and my chances of getting sponsors to keep this show running. If you want to take it to the next level, please head over to patreon.com/Stephen Helhammer and become a patron by joining the exclusive community there. You can start from as little as $3 per month. And for just a little extra, you get access to some fantastic features, outtakes, behind the scenes stuff, and much, much more. That's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. And that way you can help me build better content. I can devote more time to find awesome guests and just generally just keep everything flowing. If you want to be on the show or subscribe to my mailing list, send an email to steven@helhammer.com, and that is HEL-hammer.com. That way I can start sending you exclusive invites, random stuff, and messages that, who knows, you might enjoy. So that's it. Have a rocking day ahead, guys, and I will see you on the live stream or in your headphones very soon. Take it easy.